great piece of work. I have a technical question and then a comment on which I would like to hear your comment. When you model the impact of heat stress tolerance, don't you need to make an assumption about the frequency of heat episodes which let the crop survive? How do you make these assumptions cell by cell until 2050? Or what are the assumptions? I think IPCC may give you some ranges there. The comment I have is goes in a very different direction than what Anne had suggested. If you look at big cities under heat stress, I was recently in Ahmedabad. They had a heat episode, short-term mortality increased by 30%, 30. Don't we need a family of models which look at people resilience in conjunction with food and agriculture system resilience, rather than perfectionating with another further marginal crops your beautiful model? So I'm suggesting to add to impact a people model which brings the threats there which interact with the food system. What's your comment?
Okay, I'll think while a few more questions are here. There's one here and then one there, and we'll go back to the panel again.
Okay, thank you. My name is Hailu from Ethiopian Strategy Support Program. I have two questions for Mark. One is, how do you define precision agriculture in your model? The other is, I have seen that your grid size or scale is 60 kilometer by 60 kilometer, which is equivalent to 6,000 hectares. And how do you quantify these small indicators like nitrogen use efficiency, irrigation, and integrated soil fertility within this scale, given like different agroecology within short distance? Thank you.
Okay, and then over here.
Hi, my name is Heather O. I'm from TechnoServe. And I would like to ask if you could speak to any practical recommendations for the effective dissemination of these specific 11 technologies. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to start with the GMO question? Yeah.
Thank you for your question on GMO. There are three. I start with the last one. What policy recommendation I will want to give for promoting GM? Is that not what the question? The policy recommendation, pardon?
Yes, to governments that may not.
Yes, that's right. The policy recommendation I will give is get the necessary regulation in place. The regulatory framework must be in place. And if it's in place, let it be implemented so that the technology, because it's highly regulated technology, since it's highly regulated technology, you must put the necessary framework in place. If you do that, then let the framework drive the promotion of the technology. Then that leads me to the other first question, whether by 2050, if GMO will solve our food problem. What I will say is there is no diamond bullet that can solve the problem of food insecurity. There is no diamond bullet that can solve the problem of food insecurity. We all have to bring the technologies we have. GMO is just one of the tools we can bring to our farmers. The conventional should be there. Those ones I listed, what he had there, bring them. Let the farmer be the judge, not you, not me, not the politicians. If you put the necessary regulatory framework in place. This is what I would say. Now you are asking, what is the difference between transgenic and non-transgenic? There's an investment with transgenic. If you are a company who wants to promote transgenic, if you don't see the benefit, will you want to invest in it? Certainly no. For this particular project, we did an impact analysis, ex-ante analysis, to see whether it's beneficial for us to go into GM, considering the long investment involved. And we saw, yes, it was positive. Rob can even help me with that because they did the study showing that there is benefit. So obviously, if there is no benefit, you won't bring it. Look at what we just explained about the problem of temperature changing, more pests are there. If you go through the conventional breeding, before you get the tolerant that can sustain, pest-resistant variety that can sustain through conventional method, it will take you long period of time. But if you discover the gene that can give you that level of tolerance and you insert it, it takes you shorter period and you get the desired goal. So what I will say in summary is, let us be open to accepting the technologies, bring them to the level of the farmers. If they are highly regulated, then put the necessary regulatory framework in place and let the farmer be the judge. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any comments at the moment? Or?
Maybe very quickly on the GMO one, because it's such a hot topic. But I mean, I think we'd really be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't really take on board a lot of the new scientific developments and apply those to the development of crops, okay? I mean, I think the health field is moving very fast in this area, and I think those technologies are available or becoming increasingly available. I think the issue, what's happened with the GMO debate is the whole issue of intellectual property and the technologies become totally mixed up. So there's all sorts of misinformation around that. And I think the technologies that are being promoted widely, things like Roundup Ready and BT, you know, there's a much larger suite of technologies, and they don't have to come from the private sector. They can come from public research investments too. And some of those are beginning to come down the pipeline. So we need to somehow diffuse this argument and show the potential benefits. But it's not going to be a magic bullet. Right? There's no magic bullets in this game.
Yeah, good, thanks. Let me start with Joachim. I mean, we do have, so we downscale the GCMs, their temperature and precipitation on a daily basis and run that through the crop models for each of those pixels. But for any given GCOs, you basically got one pattern out to the future. That one of the big disadvantages of them so far is they haven't figured out a way to show ranges of variability. So we do it across 2 GCMs currently, and other work we're doing more. So we get some of that variability, but it's not quite, I don't think, the level of what you were hoping for. But we do capture then daily heat and how it changes over time out to 2050 under climate change, and then how the plants respond to that. The people model, I think, are you talking about ways to generate estimates of shocks on morbidity and disease, but directly on people rather than on plants? Or
you have a heat shock in one of your cells. It affects the crops which you capture with price effects. It affects animals, and it affects the electricity grid, and largely so that people and the health system. And the outcome is a different health and mortality effect from your nutrition and food security.
Right.
You're underestimating the extreme events drastically. Yeah. And I think to get closer to the estimation of extreme events is the name of the game, rather than being better on the general trends. Yeah. And I think these are not very complicated models, which are played with heat stress on people and heat stress on animals and the electricity grid.
Thanks. Yeah, that's very, very interesting to look into that. So on the precision agriculture, this is where what we're simulating is input delivery, plant spacing, and water applications key to field parameters, so that you're taking account of areas where you don't put water where there's more when there's areas that already have more water, or you put less fertilizer where the nutrient composition is still there. So it's modeling that complex of things, and then how that translates into yield. On the water productivity, nitrogen runoff, I mean, that is a limitation. So we are doing it, in a sense, for those, you're treating those 6,000 hectares as sort of a decision unit in which you're getting the inputs and outputs from that field. So that is a limitation by working at the global level that can be improved by working at the smaller scale that we're doing in some of these other ones. But that's a very good point. Could you rephrase your question? I wasn't quite sure how.
I would answer that one if you want.
Sorry? Oh, good. He's going to answer that one. He understood it, I guess.
I've worked quite closely with Technoserve. I mean, your model very much is around building businesses that will create the demand for the products that come out of these technologies, right?
But my question was more about if you have specific recommendations for the effective dissemination of the technologies. For example, so the model has the assumption that you can roll this out to a significant number of presumably smallholder farmers. So what were some of the sort of assumptions on that dissemination, or were there specific tactics for dissemination? Like, is it all through like development agents or extension workers, or I mean, how are you pushing it out, since that's often the hardest thing to do?
Yeah, okay. That goes. That's not exactly what we looked at, and then Richard would still like to answer some of it. But the assumptions, obviously, as I said in that last slide or something, is you do have to have a much more effective extension, and it's likely not going to be, it's not going to be the big government extension agencies anymore. Those have collapsed around most of the world. So it'd be a combination of pluralistic extension services where NGOs. In some areas, other areas it might be privately run hubs where you can get an integrated set of services in terms of seeds and machinery or and fertilizer inputs, along with advice on how to do it. I think increasingly it'll be through using cell phones to get market information out and other information out. But on top of that whole set of things, I think you do need, especially in a place like Africa and parts of South Asia, there does have to be more investment in the hard infrastructure too. That you've got to get better road systems to get farmers linked to the market, so they can actually get a high enough price for their outputs and pay a fair price for their inputs, rather than having these huge transportation charges either added or subtracted from their doing. So there's that hard infrastructure part of it as well. Do you have other points to?
I thought you were going to give us the answer, right? No, I mean,
please do.
I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done on the ground of bringing partners together and actually making them aware of what these options are. I mean, I've worked quite a lot with businesses, and businesses focus on the business side, but they often haven't got a clue what goes on in the field, and yet their whole business is actually threatened by their inefficient supply chain. So I think we do need to bring these people together, and we need to start the development community catalyzing some of the processes in the field, which, quite frankly, the private sector doesn't want to take on initially. But once those supply chains start to work, there is, I think, an incentive for them to start investing backwards to really, one, safeguard that supply chain and to improve the productivity, because as businesses start competing, they have to compete on price and all sorts of other things. But, it's a complicated process, and I think it takes a lot more time to build those types of relationships and the trust between the various partners. There's not any one group that can do it.
That's true.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just like you said, no one group can do it. We need to come together as a group. That was what I was talking about, the use of PPP to handle it, and involving the farmers. Get the farmers into clusters so that they can have access to the credit, they can have access to input. We have projects in AATL that we just rolled out a year ago, we call it CAMAP. It's cassava mechanization. It's been implemented in Malawi and in Nigeria. All we're doing is we got the technologies from Brazil for harvesting cassava, for planting cassava, for processing, for applying herbicide. And farmers who were operating singly, we put them into group. We show them where they can get access to rent these facilities if they want to clear, if they want to plant, if they want to harvest. And it's going. So that's how I think we can do it, just collectively.
Thank you. I think it's 5 minutes to 8 now, so we better close down. We do have food in the back, so if people want to eat first here, I think let's get some. It could be a while till they serve dinner out there. So, and maybe our food is a bit better too, so we'll see. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.